I'm just going to keep this video very short. The reason why is because honestly, what things that Reverie has that's good is stuff that Cold Steel 1, Cold Steel 2, 3, 4, the Bannies games that released not long ago, or at least it doesn't feel that long ago when you're exhausted 24/7 and constantly bouncing back and forth between depressed, happy. So yeah, basically between the Bannies games and the Cold Steel games, what things Reverie has that is good just is not much of anything. That isn't done better. It also does not help that what things that Reverie does have that it has that is its own or that it brings to the table, honestly, tons of it just is an elevator pitch that didn't get well thought through at all. And they feel that way throughout the whole game. One big elevator pitch gone without thought idea they had was three perspectives of the same story arc. Now, the problem with this idea is that it basically boils down to just aggressive padding, a sequel bait ending, and some excessive, intense ass pull bullshit for a story. And that's even compared to some of the ass pull stuff that was in Cold Steel 1, Cold Steel 2, 3, 4, you name it. Those things were damn near tame in their ass pull department compared to Reverie. It also doesn't help that the game's very namesake of Reverie, as in the Reverie corridors, all it is just another excuse to force you to stop playing as one character to go catch up with some other team over and over again. That's really what it basically boils down to. Is just F your progression, F your pacing, F whatever team you're using. Switch to someone else now. It kind of just guts the overall experience. Fun, entertainment, consistency, well thought outness. I struggle to think of something that this idea brought to the table that was beneficial. Someone might try and say, "Oh, mini games, king, mini games, king." Well, the problem is out of the mini games, they're not really that interesting. They're not that fun. They don't really serve much of a purpose. They're not very rewarding. They're kind of batshit the other times. And then there's the two mini games that are actually rewarding or interesting or even compelling at all, and that's Pom Pom Party and Vanish Master. The rest of the mini games they added was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the Mira edition. There's also, and mind you, that's kind of the most fun one of the entire lot, might I add. Wow, that's not a good start to anything. Then there's also Magical Girls freaking light gun shooter. There's a beach vacay thing, which is disgusting, insulting, and a waste of everything and anything. Because it literally is just, we don't want to do bonding events. What's the laziest, stupid shit we could possibly do? Well, let's have a beach vacay system set in the past that has no other purpose other than answering yes, no questions, riding a banana boat and trying to collect flags. No, really? And then there's one where you do QTE watermelon smash. And they thought a great idea was to try and help make up for the no bonding events. Let's allow people who have VR systems to ogle at virtual anime girl titties. The problem is that there's a far better way to do that already exists and doesn't necessarily require you to have a VR setup for it to be worth a shite. It's called porn. Go check that out instead. Duh. At least then you'll actually get to see actual uncovered bits. And you'll actually get to see some sex in it at least. Like, honestly, I struggle to find any purpose in the mini games other than one to be lazy, the other to add a magical girl light gun section bit, and then basically Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Sorry, Miranaire. Sorry, got a text. I'll have to answer that later. Anyways, it's just mind-numbing, and it doesn't help that the only other thing that's here outside of the hyperbolic time chamber knockoff that the Reverie Corridor basically is it only serves really two other purposes. There is another thing, but it's so minimalist and is hidden behind RNG, so I'm not even going to waste my time counting that. But basically, you have daydreams. These are little, basically optional side things. The thing is, their quality for those side things is all over the damn place. Half of them are actually kind of okay, not bad. And then the other half are like, what were you drinking and smoking? How brain dead were you that day? What was the purpose in even half of this? Like, honestly, half of this stuff is just brain dead. That's the perfect summary. Brain dead. Lacking in purpose, reason, logic, sanity. And some of it is just dumb. A waste of time. And it doesn't help that daydream shit and the orange and just the whole Reverie corridor being a hyperbolic time chamber crapshoot does not help that at the end of the game, end game content, I have to use air quotes there because trying to classify this as actual proper end game should get someone smacked on sight. That grotesque of a lie. Yeah. Like, even Pinocchio won't risk this shit because he knows it's gonna be TTFN, the Forever Edition. It's gonna be instantly obvious to anyone and everyone when he has a wooden nose the size of 2 continents stabbing and knocking over buildings by the thousands. That level of obvious lie. It boils down to a fight, and then at the end of that fight, you get an unsealing stone that gives you a literal sequel bait only daydream. No, really. It is sequel bait daydream. And that's it. That's your big reward for the whole thing. It's not bad enough that it already sequel baited really damn hard at the end of the game. They just added this just to really, really, really ram it home. They want a sequel. Like, honestly, this is the most aggressive, most in-my-face, shameless, whorish sequel baiting I've ever seen in anything. Anime, video games, TV shows, cartoons, you name it. Pick at random. It don't matter. Nothing has ever been as painfully shameless as this. Like, fuck. Can you ease off? Like, these games sequel baited a little. No lie, they did a little bit, okay? The difference is that they made sure that whatever they were sequel baiting was not the conflict that you were involved with at that time. What they used was a separate conflict. You know, basically sequel bait 101 on how not to be an ass about it. Yeah, that shite. That's the thing they've done in these games. They've sequel baited, but they didn't sequel bait so hard to the point of where their entire conflict that they just had was meaningless. It still had a purpose. It was still a conflict. It still got resolved. Here in Reverie, the conflict is not resolved. The conflict has just been prolonged and nothing else. And it even less helps that the entire idea is stupid. Very stupid. I won't go into why. One, because I don't have enough freaking brain power or will to explain something so retarded. But all I'm going to say is, this paradox bullshit has gone too far. It's gone way too far. This game has now made it so that whole paradox stuff is no longer interesting. It's just an ass pull. An aggressive, excessive, overused, overblown ass pull. Yes, even compared to what asset pools were in these 4 games, there were some. Even those are made to look harmless and pretty minimalist and not even really worth acknowledgement compared to this game. They also decided to make this game so toxically easy that it's boring. Very, very boring. Like, I didn't even put the game on easy. Normally, I play these games on easy, and I still will occasionally, like especially at endgame, I'll start to get a bit of a challenge. Like, oh, okay, I gotta keep this in mind. I gotta watch out for this ability. I gotta learn this timing. No, not here. I didn't need to learn a damn thing. All I needed to do was show up, and I beat everything's ass like it owed me money. Like, I was the most violent, most evil, sick, disgusting pimp ever. That's how aggressive and how easily I beat, battered, blackened, and demanded that pimp money from every one of these hoes. And I took and took and took. Yeah. Like, it got so bad at times, I am shocked the game just didn't destroy it itself for the sake of sparing its poor AI. Yeah. It's that bad, that easy. I literally had to, at many countless times, I had to go out of my way to make myself capable of dying. I had to go out of the way to make it so I could die. I had to not use any accessories. I had to not put on anything in my orbit slots at all. And I had to actively ignore the sub-master quartz thing, okay? I had to upgrade nobody's slots. I just had to do that. And even then, I still had to put the game on auto, and I had to walk away in order for me to finally die. On normal. Normal. And I wasn't even using the freaking hyperbolic time training McBullshit corridor. No, I didn't even touch that SOB. And I still struggled to die. Unless I went out of my way to die. Yeah. I literally only had one game over. And that was just because I went out of my way to get a game over. I feel like I should say to let that sink for a moment, but just so we don't make this video longer than it even needs to be, I'm just going to say, that's pathetic. Honestly, the only other thing this game really has on offer takes its already too easy game and makes it worse, because they gave you a thing that can happen on a character's turn or on a monster's turn called Zero Craft. And what Zero Craft does is it does the same thing as Zero Arts, but for crafts. Now, those of you who played these games already know what the big problem with that is. You already know. Those of you who don't worry, I'll explain it. You see, outside of crafts also being some pretty neat and sometimes helpful physical attacks or buffs, they're also your super. Your super. You know, that thing that does F tons of disgusting damage, especially when you set up for it, can do even more disgusting damage. Yeah, that shit. No, really. They allow you to use that super now for free if you either use that super on that character's turn who has it, or by interrupting your opponent who will have it. They get to now interrupt with a super for free. Which basically means if you're playing as, say, Reen, who has it on his turn, and then a monster's going to get it next, which happened to me a lot. I was able to literally go right into the fight, spirit unification, buff up everybody else. Alright, everybody, hit them with 5 supers. Let that sink. 5 supers. For those of you who don't know, Reen, when popped Spirit Unification, not properly set up for physical damage as he should be, can still pump out a pretty toxic total of 18,000 damage when not properly set up. Basically, to give you another mental image, Rain, when properly set up, can do roughly about almost 30 to 50,000 damage with a singular super with Spirit Unification running. Now, imagine being able to do that twice. That's 100,000 damage. Spoiler alert here, that's a lot of enemies that are even sub-bosses dead. Just dead outright. Done. There's still 3 other supers after that. And if they're properly set up, they can do almost that much too. 25,000, I think, was at the time, the highest I could really get out of these guys when I wouldn't say properly, but set them up better than I originally did. For a grand total of about 25,000 roughly damage. There's 3 of them. That means 75,000 damage roughly. In case you don't know, 175,000 damage is quite a large number of bosses' full health bars. See the problem? Because I'm giving this free super a lot, almost every single fight has it, in fact. Which means almost every single fight boils down to pop a super, go to the next opponent. Pop a super, go to the next opponent. Pop a super, next opponent, super, next, super, next, super, next, super, next, super, next. It's maddening. Just kill me. Spoiler alert here, okay? When I'm walking up to bosses, probably about 10, sometimes maybe even 15 levels below what's advised, and I'm still damn near one-shotting everything, that's not fun. Duh. It is honestly, you name something about this game, honestly, it's been done better in any of those 4 games or in the Bannings games, alright? It's been done better, outpaced, outmatched in every facet. Especially in the writing department. Especially in the writing department. Even if we ignore that these are 4 games, all right, with a singular storyline being told over the span of that 4 games, even if you ignore that, the writing is still superior first game. No, really. The writing's more interesting, better paced, somehow. The fuck? And just better set up in general sense. While it still does sequel bait in Cold Steel 1, it's just better handled. Because the primary conflict you were focused on was resolved before it sequel baited the next conflict. Which is a better way to do it. If you're going to sequel bait, at least have whatever was your primary conflict get that resolved as you then set up the next conflict. That's just a better way to do all of it. Sorry, that's reality. Now, because of how much they ham-fisted they want a sequel, I'm just going to say, just don't. Or at least if you're going to do a sequel, don't have it be some Reverie 2, no bonding events again, and still this very poorly managed and handled 3 perspective BS. Honestly, if I found out either of those 2 things are what's going to be in the next game, I'm renting only. They just need to do whole new, separate cast of characters who have no connections to the past games. Move forward. Improve forwards, please. Thank you. Now, I am going to tell you that ultimately, Trails into Reverie is a 6 out of 10, when I compare it to the scores I would have given these 4 Cold Steel games, it's the lowest rated Trails of freaking Legendary Heroes game I've played so far. It is the lowest scoring one as a whole. I'm going to go. I feel tired, and I have to prepare myself mentally. One, to stream with SMAP tomorrow. I also, or I should say today, because I forget that technically I'm going to be uploading this video Friday instead of Thursday. So, you get what I mean. Plus, on top of that, I need to, some point in time, have a sit-down chat with SMAP about scheduling both the Armored Core review as well as scheduling the Digimon and Dragons campaign. We'll see how that goes. Because so far, not going to lie, I've been kind of bouncing back and forth from feeling terrible to okay, terrible, okay, and seasonal depression is obvious. So I will see you all next time. See ya.